Hi, so with Power BI Copilot going live this week, general availability, we thought we'd have a bit of a discussion. So Megan, kick us off. What do people need to know?
Yeah, so Monday, 20th of May, Copilot is now general availability in Power BI. Now, what this means for you is if you have a P1 or F64 SKU, so that's Power BI premium capacity or a fabric capacity of 64 and above, you now have use of Copilot. Now, this is also dependent on your geographic region of your tenant. So make sure to check if your tenant is in one of the regions that has an Azure OpenAI model. When you look at your tenant settings, there is a second tenant setting that actually lets you look at geographic sharing. So if you are not in an area that has Copilot availability, you can choose whether you want to opt in to data sharing to still feel the benefit. So that's the kind of nuts and bolts of how it's gone live. If during the preview at any point you've switched it on and then back off again, then it probably is still off for you. And what I would advise is if you as an organization want to start trying Copilot, but you're a bit nervous about everyone having it, you can restrict it to a subset of the organization. So you don't have to go full throttle. You can go somewhere in the middle and you can start a pilot with a trial group of users to feel the benefits of it before you go full steam ahead.
Okay, so that's given a good sort of high-level view of Copilot and what it means to be available. So what does that look like to end users? What features is it going to have?
So I would say from my testing, it's as if there are three personas or experiences that will feel the benefit from Copilot. We start with our end users who get the benefit of insight generation. We then have our report builders who get the benefit of automatic report generation with Copilot. And then lastly, our data modelers have an improved experience with DAX. So let's start with the insight generation for end users. If I go to a report, I can now ask Copilot to give me some insights. It can suggest some topics or I can ask it questions. If I say, give me an exec summary, Copilot is going to scan through that specific page of your report and it's going to tell you the key things to look out for. There are references to which visuals it's got that information from as well. So it's really great to be able to pinpoint where it's finding that. Really useful. I think it's going to be great for people that are not your early adopters, for people that you really have to kind of drag them along to get them to use your Power BI. They still want to use Excel. Copilot is going to be a great way to get those people engaged. But it is on us as report designers now to consider what data is available. So I'll give you an example from testing. Let's say we take a report that compares full year budget or targets versus half year actuals. I would be, enough as a human to know that I'm comparing 2 months of data with 12 months of budgets or targets. But from what I've seen, Copilot is still at that point of thinking that, oh, we're actually, way behind target. We've got a target of this and an actuals of this. So it's not interpreting that midway context that we would know to look for. So maybe that means that as report designers, you need to make sure that you're using year-to-date budgets in your visuals and that your full year budgets are maybe kept slightly separate from your actuals for Copilot to really feel the benefit, or just make sure that people interpreting have got that ability to take Copilot with a pinch of salt. But really great insights that it's able to find and scour from the visuals so far.
Okay, so it sounds like for people who have that sort of proximity to the data that understand what's in there, know what they're looking out for, and understand the nuance, this could be a great way to get insights a lot quicker than they've been able to previously. I suppose there is a risk there where people don't have that knowledge that it can actually unearth insights or things, correlations that don't actually mean anything or aren't necessarily true. So I guess there's something to call out there and just be wary of sort of making sure you're doing that checks and balances when you are taking in insights from such a tool. You did mention sort of querying sort of the model, typing in questions, asking questions of data. How does that vary then to the Q&A tool?
So the Q&A tool is a great way to get a visual. So if I say to Q&A, give me analysis of profit by products and by brands, it's going to give me both of those things in one visual. But if I now ask that of Copilot, it's going to give me a whole report page with multiple visuals. Here's the product lens, here's the brand lens, and then maybe here's them both together. Here's them over time versus summarized. So it does go much further. And that's really where we get into the report building experience. So if I am someone who builds reports, Copilot is a great way to get started. It's a really sleek design that comes out of the box, so it's a nice starting point. It can immediately scan and pick from your data set what topics it thinks you might want to report on, which is great for ideas. I think a lot of the time we see very operational reporting being the focus. I need to understand what I've done, whereas Copilot is going to push you into actually, here's what you should be looking at. Here's the insights. And from my experience, it can take organizations a bit longer to get to that maturity. And I think Copilot's going to be great at accelerating that. There are still some early limitations, so you can ask it to say, show you last 30 days. But if I ask it, show me last 30-day sales, it's going to call the page last 30-day sales, but without filtering it. So again, take that with a pinch of salt. Very easy to drag a slicer in and then give that, capability, but it's still in that early phase, I think, and it'll be interesting to see how Microsoft iterate that development over time. I can't specify visuals, so I can't say give me a pie chart, and I can't ask it to edit the visual styles. But if you know your way around Power BI, these are so quick to do. It's so quick to turn a bar chart into something else, to make an x-axis a bit bigger, but it's going to find that data and drag it in for you very quickly. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what people can come up with there.
Yeah, and great. And how often have we been in the situation where we've built a report and just finding that sort of design look and feel that it's kind of difficult to get something that feels sleek.
Yeah.
So being able to do something quickly there and overcome that kind of hurdle without sort of spending lots of time thinking about design is going to be really useful.
Yeah.
I guess some of the things then that come to my mind around these things like data management is going to be super important. So these tools are only going to be as good as the inputs that they've got. So making sure you've got good naming conventions, everything's kind of intuitive, that everything sort of variable types are all kind of categorized. Those sorts of behaviors are going to be sort of super important in these as you kind of roll this out. And yeah, then hopefully you'll get the maximum benefit out of it as you've sort of started exploring it.
Yeah, I think nice tidy models are going to be very important. If you have one of these models that is bloated with lots of very custom calculated tables, calculated fields, measures that are all really geared around focusing on certain visuals, and that's all held at a model level, I think Copilot might give you some interesting results there. I've also been playing about quite a bit with the DAX query view experience, and that's really where Copilot comes into play for data modelers. I think that anyone that works with Power BI probably still spends their time Googling a bit of DAX here and there. Every time I've got to go and say, give me the last 30 days sales versus the one before, I'm probably going to go Google that. That's not off the top of my head. And there's loads of ways to do it. Do I use the flags in my date table? Do I want to use same period last year? Do I want to use date diff? Copilot is going to cut down on all that time that you spend trying to remember that bit of DAX that you've not used in a while. But from my experience of playing around with it so far, depending on the prompt you give it, it can really over-engineer your DAX. So if I say to it, can you give me the gross profit by product? It's going to assume that what you want there is a column to go on your product table, when really all you want is the sum of your gross profit, which you can then apply as a measure to your product table. So as long as you know your DAX and you know best practice modeling, this is going to really accelerate that time that you spend writing DAX. But what I do have a little bit of concern about is if we just let everyone loose on this, are we going to find our models bloating out with a lot of calculated columns and really over-engineered DAX that we don't really need? But it's a great experience and it's a great view. So yeah, I think with the right governance in place, it's going to be a great accelerator for people.
Yeah, that proliferation of all that additional overhead could potentially then mean non-performant platform, I guess, and slowly then get to a stage where you've got a decision of, do we overhaul everything that's in there, or do we then sort of invest more in the resources that we're putting in there? Does that cost us more money? So yeah, sounds like a really powerful and interesting tool, super exciting. A few little warning signs there and things to be careful of for people to get in when they start getting involved with Copilot.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'm looking forward to all the conversations we're going to have with our clients about how they make the most of this innovation while still keeping the controls there. And all the work we do in the Power BI governance space really is centered around that. We help you work out your workspace management strategy and your development standards, but without stopping people innovate. And that's really what this is all about. So hopefully that was useful. And if this has gave you any food for thought and you would love to chat more about it, please feel free to reach out to us.